So we wanted to wake our brains up as we start to think about democracy and voting and the work that we're going to do. So I'm gonna walk us through a little bit of a brain opener, and there's several small pieces to it. So we're going to explore the question: what does democracy in America mean to you? And we're going to start by, there's paper and markers on your tables. And you can move the markers if you, the K3 or the markers that say what grade level you are, because you're going to do a little bit of drawing. And silently, as you reflect about what democracy means to you, I want you to draw something on that piece of paper that represents what democracy means to you. And now that you've had a moment to personally reflect, I'm going to ask you to move into groups of 3. I know there's going to be a couple groups of, there's going to be a group of 2 and a couple groups of 4. So I'll set the timer for the groups of 4. So each of you will have a minute and a half to talk to your triad or the 4 or the 2. You guys will have a full 3 minutes, unless you guys want to try to really make it through the whole table. To answer that question and talk about what you're thinking about as you were drawing. So,
and then the next line down below.
I like
that
that.
kind of shows
What's on my mind is
the next piece is I'd like you to go back to the paper and write down the words that bubbled up the most often as people talked about democracy and what democracy is. What words did you hear as people talked about and described what democracy is? Take another look at the sheet. I want you to look at the drawings that are there and the words that made it on the sheet. Does anybody have anything that resonated with them? Any learnings, relearnings, anything that they want to share as they work through this process?
So I'll share on it. My ideas evolved as we talked about this concept and what we were going to present today. And one thing that I struggled with was reading all these books for K through 3 that talked about the ideals and what democracy is ideally. And I know, for example, the participant next to me was wanting to come and find out, well, yes, there is that presentation of the concept of democracy, but there's also the real and what might not be ideal. And I think what a lot of us struggle with sometimes is when and where and how do we deal with that dichotomy in our classroom. So I just, as those ideas come up, I hope that it can be like a space that we can talk about it either at this meeting and into the future, because that just, I really, that's where I did a lot of my pausing, is how do we discuss the ideal, but also how do we discuss what's not ideal.
We spoke in a similar vein. We sort of talked about how democracy is itself this ideal that has never really been achieved, and we're always sort of striving towards. And that in its ideal form, it's a balance of all these different forces, both the elected officials and the press and community members, activists, all working together so that they balance each other out into this equal, equitable decision-making process where everyone's voice is heard and every voice has equal value. But we acknowledge very much that that is not where we are, that we fall short of that consistently, but that there is that sort of shining image, that ideal of what democracy could and maybe should be, and that as long as we're striving and there is that sort of slow, inexorable march towards that ideal, that there's something going right.
At the bottom line or the baseline of democracy, there has to be some type of trust. And so you're choosing someone to represent, or your choices in representing we trust individuals to meet certain needs, and then when they get in office, it's, you know, it may be a different story. So that's the, I guess, the struggle part with what democracy really is.
Great segue into my next. So that individual, right, so there's this baseline of trust she mentioned, and then she said, and then we put, we elect officials and then don't get what we voted for. And so as you think about that, we think about how we teach this to our kids and how we're gonna bring this back to the students in the room. What ideas or fears do you have about this process that we've said over and over again that is an ideal and that we're striving for, but we have not achieved and we've fallen short of? Any thoughts about what that's going to be like in the classroom for you? Yes.
I've already had discussions with some kids already this year. It was sad. Some kids who I thought would be very relevant discussions have said, okay, I don't have the time for it. I'm tired of it. Politics and conversation. These are, you know, juniors and seniors, and they're already tired of politics and discussions about voting. And so it's part of why I'm cynical about things, because I see young people and they're tuned out because there's so much noise right now. So that's one of my fears is detachment.
Anybody else about the classroom? Yes.
I think again, back to a level of trust is, will your administration support you if you end up following an idea within your classroom that maybe didn't go the way you planned, and who will be there to support you in your idea, your concept of bringing this process to your classroom, and it doesn't go the way you planned, perhaps. So.
Which with kids is extremely possible. Highly likely, that's what I'm saying. We've got time for one more final comment of any kind. Yes.
I just think in the classroom or with students, the point that was made, I don't know your name, but what you made earlier about it's a process and it's an ideal that we strive for, and that in life we are always doing that. And I think it's a good example of looking at learning from the positive that happens and learning from the negative, and then making your choice about which direction or what you can learn from it, whether it's trust or mistrust or whatever. It's a constant evaluation of the system. And yet we're all here because we like this system. I think we're living in this country because we like this system better than other systems we've heard about. So there's a positive and we want to make it better.